Hello, and thank you for viewing this video, in which I will be talking about units from the Elite section of the 7th edition Orky Codex for Warhammer 40,000. My name is Steve, this is the SDFnet 40k channel, and let us begin. First up from this section, Burner Boys. Burner Boys are dedicated arsonists all, advancing on their foes amid gouts of billowing flame. They love nothing more than burning other people's stuff, and the owners too if they could get them. These lunatics will set light to anything or anyone for the simple joy of watching them do the Bernie dance. They can prove utterly lethal to tightly packed or lightly armoured infantry, the roiling blasts of their burners flushing victims out of cover amid the sizzle of cooking flesh. Faced with more heavily armoured enemies, the Burner Boys simply twist the apertures of their burners to provide a tight, metal-slicing jet of blue heat. Charging into combat, Burner Boys use these weapons to slice even incredibly resilient foes into glowing, heat-seared chunks. 80 points gets you 5 Burner Boys, up to 3 of which can be upgraded to a mech for free, and the squad can take an additional 10 models at 16 points each. The squad has the usual here we go, furious charge and mob rules, and their profiles read thus. A Burner Boy is Weapon Skill 4, Ballistic Skill 2, Strength 3, Toughness 4, 1 Wound, 2 Initiative and 2 Attacks, 7 Leadership and a 6+ save. A Mech is Weapon Skill 4, Ballistic Skill 2, Strength 3, Toughness 4, 2 Wounds, 2 Initiative, 2 Attacks, 7 Leadership and a 6+ save. Burner Boys are armed with stick bombs and a burner, which has a dual profile. It can either be a Flamer, Strength 4, AP 5, Assault 1, or a Strength as User, AP 3, two-handed melee weapon. Note, you cannot use both profiles in the same turn, so no firing and in charging, or Overwatch if you intend to use this in combat. If you upgrade to a mech, that model gains the infantry character profile and swaps its burner for a slugger and a chopper, and mech's tools for free. Any mech can be accompanied by a Grot Oiler for 5 points, and may replace his chopper with a Kill Saw for 20 points. Any mech can take items from the mech weapons list. The unit can also take a truck as a dedicated transport. Now, did someone order barbecue? Because for 80 points, I love Burner Boys. Now they face stiff competition in the elite slot, so we'll see more use against armies with lower saves and or higher model counts. But they can do work even against something like Grey Knights by just forcing repeated saves. Sooner or later they'll fail. The potential for these guys to wipe out whole squads off the board is scary and glorious. I like them at least for their ability to lay down so many wounds using the Flamer template, bypassing that inherent orc weakness of aiming stuff. On the flip side, they are no slouch in melee. If you have a mech with a kill saw, you can do good work against all but the heaviest tanks. And on the charge, your boys will be Strength 5, AP 3 weapons. So, goodbye Marines. These guys don't do badly in a truck, fly up the board and disgorge out, laying down a world of hurt on your target. I could go on about these guys forever, and while they do have limitations, I like them. Only wish there were more elite slots in a standard CAD so I could just take everything that I wanted. Next up we have Tank Busters. Tank Busters are orcs who have become completely addicted to the thrill of destroying the armoured fighting vehicles of their foes. In their desire to hunt down and slay the biggest and most dangerous tanks, they can find echoes of the primal instinct of the big game hunter. Indeed, as primitive hunters might claim a gruesome trophy of the fallen beast to better brag of its demise, so Tank Busters will strip the choicest loot from the wreckage of a ruined tank. Colourful hull plates are hammered into crude armour. Internal gubbins worn proudly by a warrior as jewellery, and the flayed skins of crewmen are draped around the tank buster's shoulders as pelts. They equip themselves extensively for dealing death to enemy armour. Their whistling volleys of rockets and lethal tank buster bomb assaults can spell annihilation for even the heaviest of tanks. A unit of tank busters will cost 65 points, for which you get 5 boys. One of these can be upgraded to a boss knob as normal. Tank Busters are armed with a rocket launcher, which is 24-inch range, Strength 8, AP 3, Assault 1. They also have stick bombs and Tank Buster bombs, which are Strength 8, AP 1, Armor Bane, and Unwieldy. Tank Hunters have Here We Go, Furious Charge and Mob rule, as well as the Tank Hunter rule, allowing them rerolls on Armor Pen on both shooting and melee attacks. They finally have the Glory Hogs rule. Glory Hogs grants an additional victory point if the first blood secondary objective was scored by a squad of Tank Hunters destroying an enemy vehicle. The stat line for both standard boys and knobs are as follows. As Tank Buster Boy is Weapon Skill 4, Ballistic Skill 2, Strength 3, Toughness 4, 1 wound, 2 initiative, 2 attacks, 7 leadership and a 6-up save, whereas the knob is Weapon Skill 4, Ballistic Skill 2, 3 Strength, 4 Toughness, 2 wounds, 2 initiative and 2 attacks, 7 leadership and a 6-up save. As mentioned, the base squad is 5 boys, but you can take up to an additional 10 at 13 points a model. You can also include 3 bomb squigs, which I covered in part 1 of this review series, for 5 points a model. Up to 2 tank busters may replace their rocket launcher with tank hammers, which are Strength 8, AP 3, melee, 2-handed and unwieldy. As mentioned, one model may upgrade to a boss knob for 10 points, granting that model the infantry character profile and unlocking items from the melee weapons list. The boss knob may also take a boss pole for 5 points, and the entire unit may take a truck as a dedicated transport. These guys are really great at killing light to medium armor and monstrous creatures, as they can lay down a really good amount of Strength 8 fire, which although is not AP2, meaning no explosions, they will quite happily glance to death most things that they shoot at via quantity of shots. I would always run these guys with as many bomb squigs as you can, and possibly put them in a truck as well, in order to get them up the board and into firing range as quickly as possible. Personally, I wouldn't bother with tank hammers, as every boy already has a melter bomb, so swapping to a hammer will simply be removing their shooting ability. If you didn't want to invest heavily in these, they can act as excellent distraction units. Making sure your enemy knows that there is this much Strength 8 pain moving towards them can be a real fire magnet, leaving the rest of your army comparatively free of incoming firepower. Once these guys do get into combat, they stand an excellent chance of popping even the heaviest tanks, as they are all equipped with the Armor Bane melter bombs. Tank Busters, again, are a very strong entry in the elite slot. As with every Orc squad, I take a boss knob. This, however, is one of those rare occasions that Power Claw is not the default war gear. I would leave them either stock or perhaps with a big chopper. The rest of the squad has a good amount of AP3 damage, allowing your knob to focus on quantities of hits rather than quality. Third in this section we have knobs. Second in status only to the war boss, Orc knobs are big, bad and brutal. Serving as a crude greenskin ruling class, the knobs are never above reminding the boys who is in charge, making a few bloody examples. This could involve hacking up some suitably impressive foes, or knocking a few fractious boys' blocks off. The knobs aren't too fussy, just so long as it gets the message across. Whether clustered in a menacing mob around a war boss, or lording it over the boys, knobs are a force to be reckoned with. Their armor is usually festooned with kill trophies, their flesh crisscrossed with impressive scars earned in pit fights or while killing their way through strings of brutal wars. Some knobs even take to the field astride monstrous war bikes, roaring through the enemy ranks like blood-soaked battering rams covered in guns. A knob squad consists of 3 knobs, of which one is denoted as the boss. They all share the same stat line of Weapon Skill 4, Ballistic Skill 2, Strength 4, Toughness 4, 2 wounds, 3 initiative and 3 attacks, 7 leadership and a 6-up save. The boss knob is classed as an infantry character for the purposes of challenges and Look Out Sir. The squad comes equipped with sluggers, choppers and stick bombs, and has the Here We Go, Furious Charge and Mob rules. The mob may be expanded with an additional 7 knobs at 18 points a model. Any knobs can take a boss pole for 5 points, however one may be given a Waaagh banner for 20 points, which if you recall my reviews from part 1 of this series, I personally was not impressed with. Any models may take items from the ranged or melee weapons lists for their appropriate costings, and any model may take an ammo runt for 3 points each. The entire mob may take heavy armor for 4 points a model, and a truck or battle wagon as a dedicated transport. If you don't take a dedicated transport, the entire mob may take war bikes at the cost of 27 points per model, bringing the cost of a single biker nob to 45 points a model. So for me, nobs will always be the bodyguard of my war boss, be he on a bike or on foot. They have access to all the war gear, meaning you could take 10 claws, however the points for that would be horrendous. Each model having a nob stat line of strength 4, 3 attacks, 2 wounds, make them tough and can be beastly in combat. I wouldn't equip these guys for shooting, as it would be a wasted opportunity. Instead, go for 2 to 3 claws and the rest big choppers. Once attached to your war boss, that will be another claw, and all your non-claw boys being 2 wound beat shields. You're sinking points into these guys anyway, so don't skimp on the armor. Also, give these guys some wheels, and they act as a delivery method for your war boss too, so always consider the option of an open-topped battle wagon. Don't put these guys in a walker transport, such as a Morknaut, or Stomper, as you really want the charge on these guys, so whatever you choose, just make sure it is open-topped. As for bikes, well, if your war boss is on a bike, then so are these guys. It saves you points on heavy armor, as a bike will give you a 4+ base, +1 toughness, and the Jink, making them super effective as a bodyguard. Nobs on bikes, in Orc terms, are sickeningly expensive, and because of the threat they can present, I can guarantee will be a fire magnet. You'll only see smaller squads of Nob bikers, from me at least, but their increased ability not to die offsets their lower numbers nicely. Obviously, not every game you can sink hundreds of points into a single unit, but if you have your war boss, always make sure to take a retinue of nobs as a bodyguard. Even if you skip the claws and just take a base squad of 3, it's still 6 wounds with a 4+ save that they'll have to chew through before getting to your war boss. As again, once he goes, you lose your precious Waaagh power. Throw a pain boy in the squad too, and you'll have feel no pain to throw into the mix to really upset your opponent. The principal weakness of nobs is mob rule. Obviously, a boss pole will help mitigate this, but given the max squad size is 10 before losses, they're going to suffer on the mob rule table. If you can find a way of making these guys fearless, do so. If you aren't calling a Waaagh every turn via the detachment bonus, perhaps Mad Doc Grotznik could join them, if the squad size was large enough to justify the points investment of Grotznik, of course. Bringing him would give Feel No Pain, Fearless, and because of any mob of boys, nobs will be the most likely to be outnumbered in combat, the Rampage rules. Following on from nobs, we have Mega Nobs. The richest and most battle-hardened nobs can become Mega Nobs by paying a mech to build them a suit of mega armor. Piston-driven and covered in enough protection to turn its wearer into a walking tank, this armor is incredibly expensive, yet it serves as the ultimate greenskin status symbol. Though other orcs mock Mega Nobs for wearing so much armor, only the dullest would do so within earshot. Even a direct hit from a tank round is unlikely to do more than knock the Mega Nob over, thus worsening his already foul temper. For many, the only chance of surviving an encounter with an angry Mega Nob is to outrun him. To counteract this weakness, many Mega Nobs roar into battle aboard armoured wagons. This saves time that would otherwise be wasted slugging across the battlefield, and helps the Mega Nobs get stuck straight in. A squad of Mega Nobs will cost you 120 points for 3 models, one of which is noted as the boss. However, they all share the same profile of weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 2, strength and toughness 4, wounds 2, 3 initiative and attacks, leadership 7, and a 2-up save. As with the nobs previously discussed, the boss nob gets the infantry character profile for whenever it matters, and they have the normal orc rules. They come equipped with mega armor, granting them a 2+ save, but making them slow and purposeful. They are armed with twin-linked shooters, a power claw, and stick bombs. You may expand the squad with an additional 70 mega nobs at 40 points each, and like standard nobs, any model can take a boss pole. Any model may replace their shooter and claw with 2 kill saws for 10 points per model. Alternatively, Any model may replace their shooter with a combi weapon with rocket launcher or scorcher for 5 points each. Finally, you can select either a truck or battle wagon as a dedicated transport. However, keep in mind, Mega Armor is bulky, meaning you would halve the transport capacity for whichever you choose. Now I'm going to be honest with you here, guys. I struggle with Mega Knobs. They do have many positives. I like the model, and on the tabletop, they're hard to kill. I mean, they're Orkinators. They come with a gun that can be exchanged for a combi flamer, meaning you won't mess up that all-important shooting phase when you really need them to do something, but fail because your 1 in 3 chance of hitting something went the way of the odds instead and you missed. They come with claws, and you know how I love claws, giving them 2 kill saws, and on the charge they'll be doing 5 strength 9 AP2 hits per model. But they're also, in Ork terms, horrendously expensive. Especially when you take into account that you must take a transport for them, which will probably be a battle wagon, or they'll never reach your enemy due to slow and purposeful. I realise Knob Bikers are more expensive, but they have the mobility and jink. Orkinators, unlike their Imperial counterparts, just seem to be gimped. They can't shoot worth a damn, they can't deep strike, they don't have an invuln, they have poor leadership, which means any losses is going to hit them hard, and unless you can make them fearless, mob rule is really going to wreck them. A squad of knobs can be a hard decision as they're 3 times more expensive than a standard boy, but when a single mega knob is over twice as expensive as a normal knob, I just really struggle. I want to like this unit more than I do, and if they lost slow and purposeful, I might be more willing to cut them some slack. But as they are, from my perspective, I just don't think they're that good a choice. That isn't to say that I don't take them, just like mutilators for Chaos Space Marines, who are considered unfieldable by popular opinion, but who are still considerably better than Mega Knobs. I field stuff for fun. It's not infrequent for me to just totally randomly generate a list, just to see what I can do with it and if I can win. The penultimate unit in this section is Commandos. Where most orcs love getting stuck in with a minimum of mucking about, Commandos prefer to spread panic and fear behind enemy lines. They embody the low cunning common in most orcs, but taken to an extreme. A commando would rather sneak up on this victim and stick a dagger through his ribs than just run at them yelling. There can be no greater satisfaction to these orcs than the thump of exploding ammo drums or screams of enemies as stick bombs clatter into their barracks. They especially savour the disbelieving expression of victims caught in the jaws of the perfect orc ambush. Festooned with bombs, guns, and blades, these sneaky gits lurk in the shadows until a boss gives them the signal, at which point the commandos explode from cover, howling bloody murder and hacking their shock's victims to pieces in the name of Gork and Mork. A squad of 5 commandos will cost you 50 points, and come armed with a slugger, chopper, and stick bombs. You can upgrade one of their number to a knob for 10 points, and take up to 10 additional boys at 10 points apiece. They have the usual profiles of a standard commando being weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 2, strength 3, toughness 4, 1 wound, 2 initiative and attacks, leadership 7 and a 6-up save, with the boss knob being weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 2, strength 3, toughness 4, wounds, initiative and attacks 2, leadership 7 and a 6-up save. They are subject to the Here We Go, Furious Charge and Mob rules, but they also have Infiltrate, Move Through Cover and Stealth. As normal, if you upgrade the knob, he becomes a character and can take a boss pole for 5 points and melee weapon. As for upgrades, up to 2 commandos can replace their sluggers with either a rocket launcher or big shooter for 5 points, or a burner for 15 points. I do like commandos. They're 4 points more than a standard orc boy, with whom they share their stat profile and basic war gear. However, for me, the mind games they can play resulting from the infiltrate can be useful and worth the extra few points. It all depends on your deployment and your opponent, of course, but you do have the option to simply infiltrate. You can't charge first turn from this, but it could provide an opportunity on the battlefield. Or you could use them as a counter-deployment tool, blocking out bubbles of the table from your opponents, preventing their scouts, for example, getting in a position to wipe out your warlord turn 1, and preventing your Waaagh. My favourite tactic for commandos, however, is to use them to outflank. You then have either a burner or a rocket launcher coming on at the side or rear of your enemy lines, and being able to get a shot at an Imperial Guard command squad hiding at the back, or the rear armour of tanks. Even if you don't do much damage directly, knowing that they are there creates a threat bubble. Your enemy will either need to move their tanks, possibly preventing them from firing, or redirect fire away from the rest of your army to deal with this new threat. Personally, I like the burner option as it's good shooting and has good melee potential. Coupled with a knob with a bus pull and a claw, and you've got quite a threat for your adversary. Following on from commandos, we move directly onto Boss Snickrot. The infamous orc hunters of the Armageddon Imperial Guard are afraid of one orc and one orc alone. In the dark night of the steamy equatorial jungles between Prime and Secundus, these grizzled veterans whisper tales of Boss Snickrot. They tell of a killer who slips through the jungle like a ghost, who can pass through throttlevine groves without disturbing a single leaf. They tell of a savage hunter who lives for slaughter, whose eyes blaze with malice. Finally, they tell of his victims, left to bleed to death, with their eyes torn out from their scalps and ripped free from their skulls. Boss Snickrot and his Red Skull commandos have become a bane upon the world of Armageddon, striking from the shadows time and again, always where the defenders least expect them. No matter how elaborate Snickrot's schemes become, his lads are equal to the task, and the boss has vowed that even if the mighty Ghazghkull has given up on conquering Armageddon, he never will. Boss Snickrot is a commando character and will cost you 60 points, and has all the rules for a normal commando, just to save me repeating everything that you already know. For the points, you get Weapon Skill 5, Ballistic Skill 2, Strength 5, Toughness 4, 2 wounds, 3 initiative, 4 attacks, Leadership 8, and a 6-up save. But in addition to all the good stuff that comes with the commando, he also causes fear and has the Ambush special rule, which says that if Boss Snickrot joins a unit of commandos that are held in reserve, and no other independent character joins the unit, then Snickrot's unit can move on from any table edge. When they arrive from reserves, no dice roll is needed to determine where they enter, the orc player chooses. In addition, Boss Snickrot and his unit have the Stealth special rule replaced with Shrouded on the turn they deploy from reserves until the start of the next turn. To further sweeten the deal, the rule Boss of the Red Skull Commandos means that Boss Snickrot can only join units of commandos. However, if Boss Snickrot shares a detachment with at least one unit of commandos that he doesn't actually have to join, Snickrot himself does not take up a Force Orc slot. Like many named characters, Boss Snickrot comes with bespoke war gear in the form of Mork's Teeth. These are a pair of melee weapons that are Strength User AP5 with Shred. Now this guy is 10 points more expensive than a whole squad of commandos by himself. However, thinking on the tactics that I discussed earlier for commandos, Boss Snickrot is a force multiplier if you are taking commandos with the intention of outflanking them, as opposed to counter-infiltration. I think he can provide some nice buffs. First, he'll be able to take any challenges. Firstly, he'll be able to take any challenges that go in, assuming he isn't killed before he can hit. He'll have 6 Strength 6 AP5 Shred attacks on the charge, which, while not bypassing Marine's armor save, is enough to force a good number of saves, and against Eldar or Guard, could cause instant death. And with Snickrot tanking any challenges, that leaves your Knob with your Claw free to murderify everything else. His Ambush ability, I think, is where he shines. His ability to choose where you arrive from eliminates the risk that you'll be stuck on your own board edge, meaning that when you do arrive, you will have your people where you want them. With the extra cover save and move through cover, you could also aim to come onto the board straight into ruins, giving yourself some safety whilst you wait a turn before charging. Boss Snickrot is not for every army, but if you're thinking of taking commandos, Snickrot could be a good addition. If you're taking commandos with the intention only for counter-infiltration, just take 2 squads of commandos instead. That's me done for now. I appreciate your taking the time to listen to me ramble on. I hope you enjoyed the content and welcome your constructive feedback and discussion in the comments below. If you like this video, hit like. If you like my content, by all means hit subscribe. Both help me knowing what is working. I have been Steve, this has been the SDFnet 40k channel, and I will see you next time. The Emperor protects.